How did you find your way into senior housing?
Well, I found it because our own family member had to go into one. And it was a really bad experience for us. He went into a place with 200 plus beds. So like my father's dad was 79 when he had his first stroke, and we had his second. That was pretty much towards the end, right? When I went in to go and see him, it was a pretty tough time because he could not talk. And when he had a accident, he couldn't do anything on it, right? So we pulled the pull cord button back behind his head and no one came. 5 minutes goes by, 10 minutes goes by, 15, by 20 minutes, like,
Jeez.
bro, like I'm pissed.
Yeah, this is
And
the I need help. Like a nurse should be here
get
immediately.
here ASAP because his face was changing colors because he felt so bad that he couldn't control it. And I just couldn't handle it anymore. And I said, I need to go do something. Like I've been here doing nothing for this time and I felt terrible. And I went to go down to get the two people to help him. And I was not very polite. I was angry and I said, get over there and hurry up. And after I went home, I felt bad because I said, shit, what's going to happen after I'm gone? Those two people aren't going to offer anything of help. And I said, I probably actually hurt him. So this whole thing happens. I feel like a total jerk, and then I push it down deep, like as if it didn't ever happen, because I felt so bad. Fate is going to have it where I get pulled back into it about 5 years later. My father-in-law plays the piano down in Florida 328 times per year at the old folks home for $35. And the painful part, Chris, is that he tells the same jokes over and over. So it is painful, anyways. But one of the things that I figure out is when I go to these buildings with 100 to 200 people, that feeling that I had back before kept coming back up.
Hmm.
So I'd be like, Kelly, is there anything that I can do that I don't have to go? So I will cook. So I'll clean. Is there anything I can do? And she just says, no, you have to go. This is the only time you have to see him. And this time was different though, Chris, because we pulled into a house. And I said, text your dad, where are we at? I have never been in a home before. So we go into a 5 bedroom house and this was different. It didn't have the typical odor. When you go into these places with 100 to 200 beds, the odor isn't very good. The atmosphere is terrible. And this was different. I'm in a home with 5 people and I go, what is this? And I discovered that that's how they're able to do it down in Florida. There's 1,800 of them. In California, there's 2,800. In Texas, there's 55,000. And I go back home and there's 55. And I said, well, that's an opportunity because it was cool. So I basically
There's
jumped it.
55 where you live in your market, right? And where is that?
So like homes in the entire part of, so like Illinois, the entire state. There was
Jeez,
55, Chris,
jeez.
compared to 55,000 in Texas. So Phoenix, Arizona has 3,000 in just Phoenix.
Hmm.
But in places where it's colder, they didn't open as fast. People didn't quite get it.
I wonder if
So I
that's why
said,
some people just move to Florida is that they get the
well,
convenience and the weather.
I thought that too. But then when you pull up the elder count population in the country, our state is on the top 10 list, and we are number 7. And I said, that's interesting because they're all here. And I said, that's incredible. So I go to our hometown and they didn't have any. Our home county of 300 plus thousand people, they didn't have any. So at the time, I was investing in real estate for over 4 years full time, and I had 23 homes. I thought I kind of had it all figured out. When I saw this one home with 5 people, that house outperformed all 23 homes 2 times a month. And I
Those
said,
homes, the ones you had, were they long-term rentals, like
mm-hmm,
traditional long-term rentals?
yep.
Yeah.
So when that happened, I said, I need to get into that because it was very different of what I've heard of prior. And I haven't ever done it like that where it was be something that it's in a home like that. I've always been into the bigger, colder places where the atmosphere isn't very good, where you're able to go into all of these homes with 5 to 10 people. I just haven't ever heard of it before. And I said, this is really cool. How do I get into that? And I figured out how to open it up. Then I quickly figured out that I need to partner up with somebody. So that's kind of how I was able to get into it. I partnered up with a person that was in the healthcare industry for 38 years. We've been partners now for almost 8 years.
Awesome. So yeah, I mean, that's how you see a lot of businesses get started. So that it's the scratching your own itch. But in this sense, it's not necessarily scratching your own itch. You saw a problem, and that really hit you at an emotional level. But then you saw the solution to the problem that just didn't exist where you were, and you were able to
Right.
take that solution back to your hometown, find a good operator that knew, at least had more knowledge of that industry, apply your expertise in what you do, and start building from there. Does that sound about right?
That is, we did all of the OpCo in-house. We built it how I felt it had to be done. So our first house, I was able to buy it for 250. I put $550,000 into it. So I went over the top. But I felt like if I'm going to ever open up any home, it needs to be of the caliber that if we're going to put our own family member in there, like it's up there.
Yeah.
And that's how
Yeah.
I have done everything for the past 8 years. And as we have been able to open up other homes and other homes, we always kept that because we felt that like we can change the industry. We can be part of changing how it's done going forward. And
Yeah.
it isn't able to happen overnight, but if you just keep on going and to do homes, we can change how people think of it. Because today, so like most people think of the industry as these 100 to 200 bed type places, which I often compare them to the taxi industry, right? They have been there forever. Everyone thinks that is going to be how you do it. And then came Uber, right? Uber changed what they have, how people thought of the industry because they would just order it off your phone compared to the old way of taxi. We are the Uber of the industry, changing how people think of caring for their elder parents. Because if you think of it this way, if your parents, if your parents came out of a home, whoever thought it was a good idea to put them in a giant place that's 200,000 feet? Probably not them, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Probably the owners that go, well, if I put 200 people in here, we can profit a ton of money. But that is what the issue is. We are doing it differently by taking cozy homes that are only 10 to 20 people per home. But our aim is to do hundreds or thousands of them.
Yeah. It's such a unique twist on, or not really twist. It's just it's a unique way to solve a problem. And as a real estate investor, you're uniquely positioned to where you can get these homes, and you got the expertise to build them out, along with your business partners. You got the expertise on the senior housing side. So what does that operations look like? Because this is very different than even Airbnb. So Airbnb, it's very different from single family, like long traditional rentals. It's an operations business. You're in the
Yeah.
hospitality. Now you're somewhat in the hospitality business as well, but there's additions to that, because there's special care involved.
There's
So
a lot of care. The overall ops piece is tough. It is more of a healthcare operating company every day that happens to have a asset underneath. That's how you have to think of it. Anyone that has the experience fixing, flipping homes, you won't just jump into this and then operate this. You have to have, we have for our first home, right? Our first home had 10 people in there. We had 4 rooms that had their own room, and then we had 3 rooms that there was 2 people each room. But for those 10 people, we had 2 full-time people there to help 10 people. So it was a caregiver to every 5 people for the first 5+ years.
We did that because when you have that type of care, you can offer awesome help.
Mhm.
Compared to the competition, a caregiver has to care for 20 to 30 people.
That's what I would have figured. Like nursing, I would have
Well,
figured
so
20.
that's the issue, Chris, is if you were fantastic at it, could you care for 20 people properly? What if two people had a accident at the identical time and they asked for your help?
Yeah.
So like, who would you pick? And what happens is people are able to have accidents and they just have to wait and wait and wait.
Yeah.
And that isn't how it ought to be. We are using technology that's changing that. People get changed quickly because we are using technology, and that's what the industry is going to turn into. Just how taxi is old now. People aren't going to ever have to do that anymore because you just order it all on your phone.
Yeah.
Same thing where if you have a accident, I don't think I would ask for any help because I would feel terrible that I couldn't have that part fully controlled. But through an app that can tell that they had an accident, the person can offer to help me because they don't have to ask me anymore. That's how it ought to be.
Yeah.